What is up, guys? Says coming to you this morning. I want to talk about the fight preview for the weekend. We got a couple cards on Saturday, and we actually got one on Sunday as well. So boxing all weekend, guys. Make sure you are watching. Some good, pretty good fights. Nothing, no huge showdowns of big time names, but good, decent fighters, guys that are coming up, solid names, and we're gonna kick it off Saturday. February 9th on DAZN. The whole card starts at 4 o'clock, so make sure you're checking it out. There's 4 fights worth watching on this card. We're going to kick it off with Azat Havanassian. It's actually a Golden Boy card, by the way. Azat Havanassian, former world title challenger. He is my number 8 fighter at 122 pounds, which is super bantamweight. If you missed his fight with Rey Vargas last year, I highly recommend you go see it. And actually check out his fight from ESPN last year against Ronnie Rios, when he knocked Ronnie Rios out, who's a good, solid veteran. Was also a guy that Vargas struggled with a little bit the year before. And that upset got him the shot at Vargas last year, where he ended up losing a decision, but he pushed Vargas hard in that fight. Vargas took the rest of the year off because he got injured, because this guy really roughed Vargas up and beat him up. And it was just a good, solid performance. And this guy is tough as fuck. He's from Turkey, and I really like this guy. He's going to be, this year, he's probably going to be the most avoided man in the division because he is tough as nails, and not a lot of people want to fight him after what he did against Rey Vargas last year. But he's staying busy. This is going to be his second fight since the Vargas fight, and he's entertaining. It should be a good knockout. He's fighting some nobody named Lolito Sansona. So, yeah, I'm predicting him to get a nice win here and a knockout. Hopefully lead to something better later on. Following him is Joseph Diaz Jr., former world title challenger. He's moving up to 130 pounds officially. If you missed Diaz last year, he had a couple entertaining fights. His fight with Gary Russell on Showtime last year, which was the first loss of his career, he put up a good fight against Russell. He really was the first guy to test Russell since Lomachenko beat him back in 2014. It was a good fight in the first half, and then Russell just took over and outboxed him in the second half, but he went the distance and showed a lot of heart. He came back, fought Jesus Rojas in August, got a close decision, but he came in overweight for that, so he decided not to fuck with his weight and move up to 130, which I think makes sense. There's a lot of good fighters in Golden Boy at 130 and fights to be made. And now he's officially debuting there. He's taking on some unknown guy named Charles Huerta. I think this is going to end by either a decision or a late stoppage. And, this guy's really talented, and he's a good fighter. I actually got to see him live on an Andre Ward undercard a few years ago. So, good fighter right here. Check him out, and he's going to get back into the mix here. Next up is the co-feature, which is Rey Vargas against Franklin Manzanilla. Vargas, undefeated WBC champion at 122 pounds. I currently have him ranked 3rd in that division. This guy throws a ton of punches a fight. Not a big-time power puncher, but he's fun to watch, and he's really tall. I think he's like 5'11", and he weighs 122 pounds. So he's really tall for his weight, and he's just entertaining to watch. Yeah, it's going to be about a 9-month layoff for him since his May showdown with Azat Havanassian last year, where he really got pushed, and then he got injured in that fight as well. That caused him to be out of the ring for a while. But I'm a big fan of this guy's, of him, and I really am looking forward to seeing this one against Manzanilla, who's not a complete pushover. This guy was just a typical journeyman last year, and he came out and upset former champ Julio Ceja, who was actually Vargas's #1 contender. That's pretty much why Manzanilla got this fight. So he's already pulled off an upset. He's got a lot of confidence going in, and this should be a good, interesting fight right here heading into Saturday. So I'm predicting Vargas, though, to get a late stoppage, middle to late stoppage, possibly a decision. And he needs to look good if he wants to push a unification bout later in the year with Danny Roman. So we'll see. And then in the main event, it's going to be undefeated Alberto Machado, who's a Puerto Rican fighter, co-promoted by Miguel Cotto and Golden Boy. And just got a lot of power. He's lengthy. He's his last fight out in October, he destroyed some guy in only 1 round. This guy's got some pop. Like I said, he definitely, is just trying to build his name. He's taking on some unknown guy named Andrew Cancio, trying to look good ahead of a mandatory defense against Rene Alvarado later in the year. And I like Alberto Machado. I'm looking forward to seeing him possibly against Tevin Farmer late in the year, in a unification bout, since both of them fight out of the zone. Just an entertaining kind of slugger, and he's kind of learning to be a boxer under Miguel Cotto's tutelage, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does next in this division, and we'll see what he pulls off. But that's the DAZN card in its entirety right there. So hopefully we see a good one on Saturday out of them. Now, starting at 7 o'clock, we got a triple header coming to you on Showtime. That's going to first off feature, the undercard's going to kick off with former junior lightweight champion, which is 130 pounds, Javier Fortuna, taking on Sharif Bojere, who's a former world champion or world title challenger at 135. Fortuna, he was ranked 10th at 140 pounds. I dropped him back into the rankings at 135, where I think I got him ranked 8th. And he's a good, solid fighter. He took on Robert Easter last year in January. He came in overweight for that fight, though, and it ended up being a close split decision loss. Easter's the guy that fought Mikey Garcia in July. Then he took on Adrian Granados and was fighting him tough before he got pushed out of the ring and landed on the back of his head. The fight was declared a no contest. Now he's coming back to 135, where he's got, where I think he's got a better chance of doing something. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he can pull off. I got him winning a decision here. I wouldn't be surprised by a knockout, but I see more of a decision. But I really like Fortuna. He's talented. He's good, slick southpaw, talented, and he's not afraid to mix it up. So that should be a good kickoff to the Showtime card. The co-feature is going to be Mario Barrios, who's a decent fighter. He's kind of a prospect on the rise. I thought the second fight, the co-feature, was going to be something else, but this should be, he's just staying busy, staying active, trying to throw his name into the mix. I believe he's a welterweight, so he should be, a young fighter, undefeated fighter on the rise as a co-feature. But in the main event, you got undefeated Gervonta Davis taking on Hugo Ruiz, who's a former champion at 122 pounds. This is going to be an interesting one right here. Ruiz is stepping in for Abner Mares, who had a detached retina in training, so he had to pull out of the fight. Ruiz is a former champ, like I said, at 122 pounds, and he just fought last month on the Pacquiao card, but he didn't really exhaust himself in that fight. He took on a nobody, and now he wants to face a big name, and he signed on quick to get a shot at Davis. This is the heaviest Ruiz has ever fought, though. So, what I think is going to happen is Davis is just going to be too big and too strong. But you know what? You know what's funny, guys, is he would have been too big and too strong for Abner Mares, too. So, Mares might have put up a better fight because he's a better fighter than Ruiz. But, I pretty much see same result here for what I was going to predict in a Mares fight, which is a knockout in the early rounds. I think Davis is just a beast. He's young, he's hungry, and he's with Mayweather, so he's trying to build a name for himself at a very young age, and he already has, and he's entertaining as hell. I mean, the guy hits really hard. He's going to end up being a lightweight to 140 pounder at least, and I just can't wait to see the guy fight. I look forward to seeing him fight every time. He can box, and he's got a shitload of power. So, that's going to be a good one right there. In the main event, I see an early knockout to keep himself busy and hopefully a prelude to a bigger fight later in the year. And that's it for that fight. Now on Sunday, we got a doubleheader, at least, 2 fights that are worth watching on ESPN. It's going to kick off with, let me see here, I'm sorry, Ray Beltran. There's more than 2 fights. Genesis Servania, who's an entertaining Filipino fighter, who took on Oscar Valdez, who you just saw last weekend. He took him on a couple years ago and gave him hell and knocked Valdez down, and that was Valdez's only career knockdown right there. So this guy is a guy who brings it, knows how to fight. He fights at 122, 126. He's floating around my top 10, right around there. And yeah, he's just entertaining. So he's taking on some guy named Carlos Castro. So this should be just quick work, staying undefeated and staying busy. But yeah, he's entertaining, so he's worth watching. Now in the co-feature, you get former world champion veteran Ray Beltran. He's returning to take on, I believe, a Japanese contender, Hiroki Okada, who's a veteran. And I think Beltran, he's moving up to 140 for his first time. I still have him ranked as a lightweight until he shows me he can handle 140, because this is the heaviest he's ever fought at. But as long as he comes away with this with a solid performance, yeah, I think he's gonna do good at this weight. Well, he'll do okay at least. And maybe the weight is what zapped him in his last fight against Pedraza. Because he looked like he got tired late in that fight. And that was a trait of Beltran's early in his career that never happened. He never got tired late in a fight. You can ask Terrence Crawford about that, because he pushed Crawford all 12 rounds back in 2014. So we're going to see what he's made of. He's 37 now. I'm predicting him to get a decision win here. Hopefully a stoppage would be fun. He is entertaining. He can get hit. So we'll see what he can put up, or and how he looks in victory, or we'll see if he's at the end of his road. And this is going to be it, as you saw with Jorge Linares a couple weeks ago, moving up to 140, that was just too big for him, especially as an older fighter. So we'll see what he pulls off and how he does. But in the main event, you got Jose Ramirez, the undefeated WBC 140-pound champion. He's returning to action. He's taking on Jose Cepeda, who's a former world title challenger now. That throws caution to the wind, but he can also box a little bit. But he comes straight forward. Now, Cepeda is not a take a step back type fighter either. This guy fought for a world title. He got injured in that world title fight, and that's what caused him to, he got hurt in the second round and had to pull out of the fight, and it ended up being a second round TKO. But if he didn't get hurt, he would have been definitely in that fight. And he's tough. He's also trained by Freddie Roach, who's Ramirez's old trainer. Actually, Ramirez won the title last year in March with Freddie Roach, and that was the last fight that he had with him. So this fight's going to be interesting. This is not a fight to overlook. It's on Sunday again. The whole card starts at 4 o'clock. I think it's going to be a war, at least for a while. I got Ramirez winning, stopping him in the middle to later rounds, just based off of what I know. But I could be wrong, and I wouldn't be surprised if this guy really pushes Ramirez like Ramirez got pushed a little bit in his last fight against Antonio Orozco. I know these guys, you don't know them, but he's taking on pretty legit fighters here that just don't have big names yet. But they are legit fighters that I know, and I commend Ramirez for taking these fights as optional defenses, because that really shows his mettle, shows what kind of guy he is and champion he wants to be. So we'll see. It should be a good one. That's Sunday, ESPN. Remember, DAZN on Saturday at 4. Showtime at 7 on Saturday. And then on Sunday, you got 4 o'clock on ESPN.